Hey everyone, today we're going to be building a $1,500 custom gaming PC. Alright, so just to go through some of the parts that I got, I chose the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. It has 8 cores and 16 threads. It should be enough to process the games I want to play and to stream. Next is going to be the ASUS TUF Gaming X570 Plus motherboard. This one has Wi-Fi on board, so I don't need any external dongles in order to get Wi-Fi on my PC. I chose the NZXT Kraken X53 AIO liquid cooler. It's a little better than the stock cooler that AMD provides, and it's going to add a little bit of bling to the PC. I chose the G.SKILL Ripjaws RAM, and I also chose it in 3600 megahertz for the matching speeds and to have extra RAM on board. I went with the RM750 power supply because it was a gold power supply and it was a little less expensive, so in the future if I did want to upgrade my PC, I could, but at least it's a good standard of gold power supply. So this is personal preference, but I did choose 1 terabyte solid state M.2 for my main hard drive, and then for a boot up hard drive for my Windows 10, I did get a 500 gigabyte M.2 solid state as well. But this isn't necessary. You can get away with this. Still, even with both of these, my build was under 1500. These are Asiahorse power supply extension cables. They're just going to run on the front side of my PC, so whatever's showing is going to look clean. The rest of it's going to be hidden in the back with some good cable management. And this is the NZXT H510 Mid ATX tower. I got it in matte black and red because I want to make it Kylo Ren themed. Lastly, not shown here, is I got the MSI GeForce GTX 1080 Ti Duke graphics card. I got it used for $300, and this is a huge reason how my build was under $1,500. Okay, so first off, what you're going to want to start off with is your motherboard. We're just going to open up the box. Again, a cool little trick is if you're worried about static electricity and all that, you can wear the wrist guard. You could have your static pad. You could do that. I'm not advising against it. For me, I've talked to enough people and I've gotten their opinions and suggestions, and a cool little trick is to just touch your PC case and make sure you de-static. But also this bag is an anti-static bag, so just work on top of that. So we're going to take out some of the stuff you're going to need. I think this is the Wi-Fi card. It says Wi-Fi. We'll figure out how to put that in. Just take out the motherboard, like so. And here are the other, this is the backing plate for your case. What are you doing? You can't move the stand. Oh my God. You have your manual and some SATA cable for your hard drives and power cables, I believe. Shit, I don't know what any of this stuff is. But hey, look at that. It comes with a coupon code. Don't copy that. Okay. And look at that, it comes with some decals if you want to customize your stuff. Okay, we'll take that off. I don't even know where those stickers go. Oh, and these are, I think, important. I think these are for your solid state mounting pins, so hold on to those. And it comes with some CD thing. I don't know what that is. Okay. So what I've seen a lot of people do is they work on top of their case like this. Oh, and the most important part, you're going to need your CPU. So rule of thumb with this is make sure you don't touch the top or the bottom pins, okay? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is install the CPU onto the motherboard. Again, try to keep it on the box. Alright, so if you could see right here, this little square area is where you're going to install your CPU. I don't know if you could see that corner right there on the top right. but that is where you're gonna line up the CPU to that square. So if you look closely, I don't know if you could see it, it's really tiny, but there's gonna be a little golden arrow on at least the Ryzen 7 37X CPUs. You're gonna wanna match that with the arrow on the motherboard. All right, so at least on these motherboards, you're gonna have a little latch right here. You're gonna pull that latch to the side, and then it should pull up like this. And that's gonna be the unlocked position. Once you have it in the unlocked position, go ahead and take your CPU. Again, don't touch the top or the side pins. And you're gonna gently place it onto the motherboard like so. And it should just fall in and sit in like that. Once it's in there, you're good. No need to press it down. Or once you have that installed, you're gonna go ahead and take your latch, and it feels like you might be breaking it, but you're not. And go ahead and just lock it and get it underneath that tab once again. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna install our solid state drives. I have one 500 boot drive and I have 1 terabyte for my main storage. So I'm gonna install my main storage. It's gonna be right here where you see all these little pins, and the other one's gonna be right below this section, but it's actually covered by this. So we're gonna have to unscrew that to put that on. So the first bay is gonna be actually right here, the open one. So I'll go ahead and take out my 1 terabyte SSD out of the box, just so I have that ready. And again, if you're not sure of what you're doing, consult a friend that might know, or read your manual that comes with your box. Okay, so here's my solid state drive, and here's that hardware that we started off with when we opened the motherboard case. This one, we're gonna screw into the motherboard first. And to find out which screw hole to screw that into, take your SSD and kind of line it up with where it may fit. So for me, it's gonna be the second to last screw right there. So go ahead and take the hardware and screw it in right there. Once you have that in place, you can take your solid state drive and you're gonna stick it in right into here. There we go. And it's gonna be kind of sticking out like this, and that's where you're gonna screw your second screw into. And you're gonna do the same thing on your other hard drive. Okay, so be sure before you put this back on, you take off the little sticker thing for the thermal pad. So same thing, it's gonna screw into the second to back one, screw on there first, and you're gonna do the same exact thing that you did with the 1 terabyte. So go ahead and peel this off and throw this back on, and go ahead and screw these back in. Okay, next we're going to be installing the RAM into our motherboard. And then make sure you read your manual, but in the manual it does say something like, you know, populate, I don't know if you can see this, but it says populate B1 and A1 and then B2 and A2. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my RAM into these 2 gray slots since I only have 2 sticks of RAM. And what we're going to do is we're just going to open up the slots like this. The other side is fixed on this motherboard. So some motherboards you'll have to open up both sides, but mine only has 1. So I'm going to line up the RAM like this and then press down until this locks in like so. Once you see that that tab is locked underneath that little slot on your RAM, that one's good. Next, we'll take out the other one, and we'll go ahead and do the same thing. Make sure it's lined up properly like so. Just gonna slide it in together until that side clicks in. And now you installed your RAM. Next, before we move on to installing our motherboard into our case, we're gonna go ahead and install the cooling bracket to make it easier to put the cooler on when it's in the case. So we'll go ahead and open this guy. Comes with the manual for how to install, which should be pretty helpful. All right, so here's our liquid cooler right there. Here's 2 fans. And this is the piece we're gonna want. This is gonna be the mounting bracket, depending on what processor you have. I have a Ryzen 7, which is gonna be the AM4 sizing. So I'm gonna want that little pack in there for my mounting for my liquid cooler. So we'll go ahead and set the rest of this aside. This is gonna be the radiator, and this is gonna be the liquid cooler itself. All right, so we'll go ahead and take out the components that we're gonna need. So the first step before I install my AIO is I have to remove, the first step I have to do in order to install my AIO is to install the bracket, and I have to take off the stock brackets that came with my motherboard. So go ahead and take those off. All right, so once you have those brackets removed, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna take the hardware for the AM4, which comes in a bag labeled AM4, and you're gonna install the standoffs onto those 4 holes right there. Screw these on like so. Okay, next we're going to be installing the motherboard into the case. Okay, so first what you're going to do is you're going to first that's going to be in the bloopers. All right, we'll figure that out after. First what you're going to do is you're going to want to unscrew this. I don't know what happened.
5 hours later.
Should be fine. First what you're going to do is you're going to unloosen this screw, and then you're going to carefully lift and slide out the tempered glass and put it away somewhere safe. And we're going to install that motherboard. Okay, and then you're also going to do the same thing on the back side. You're going to loosen up these screws. There's going to be 2. And once you have those loosened, go ahead and take off the back plate like so. Put that somewhere else. Okay, depending on the case you get, you're going to get some hardware. Mine is in a box inside underneath the case. Okay, next thing you're gonna want to install is your shield for your interface. So this is gonna go just kind of like this. It clips in too, so right, I think that's completely in. We are ready to install the motherboard into the computer. And so let's get the orientation correct. It's gonna be this way. If you guys like this video, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you want to see more future content as well. Also, leave a like with this shot alone, because this shot was really difficult to get. All right, so please refer to your manual. But for me, for this motherboard and to this case, I'm gonna need 9 screws total. So that came with my hardware bag right here. Gonna go ahead and use those 9 Phillips from this bag here to screw in my motherboard. Throw it in like so. And yeah, just match up the shield and match up the screw holes and all that good stuff. So again, refer to your manual. In my manual, it says there's going to be 9 screws. I don't know if you could see all of them, but there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3 down here, 7, 8, 9. So go ahead and take the screws that it came with and screw down your motherboard. All right, so once you have everything in there, you're all good, ready to move on to the next step. So now we're just gonna take off the fan bracket to make life easier before we install the PSU. What you're gonna do is just loosen these up. So just loosen these up together. That's gonna be the fan mountain bracket for the AIO. Go ahead and pull that guy out. Okay, now we're just gonna open up our power supply. It's gonna be all the cabling. I also do have extensions just to make it look nicer by Asiahorse. All right, and there's our 750 watt power supply that we're gonna install into our case. So this step is an extra step that I have to do because I want to try to use these Asiahorse cable extensions to make my cable a little aesthetically pleasing, but it's definitely more work, and I'd advise if it's your first time against it, and especially if you have a smaller case like this. So in order for me to try to be able to fit all this cable in back here, I'm going to have to remove my hard drive cage since I'm using solid state drive. So we're going to go ahead and take out this hard drive cage that's in here by removing these 4 screws. So I went ahead and braided it. I don't think you guys needed to watch me braid my cable. So this is the PSU extension by Asiahorse, and we went ahead and gave it a couple combs and braids and just installing it now into the motherboard. There we go, we got that click. Make sure the power is all the way in, and we're gonna route it back towards the back of the CPU and try to make it as clean as possible. I don't know if I need another comb in there, but it's gonna look like that. All right, so this is what it looks like with the cable extensions done. We have one right there for the 24 pin for the CPU, sorry, the 24 pin for the motherboard, and that's the other 24 pin that you can barely see up there in the top left corner. Okay, now I'm working on the front panel connectors, which are some of the cables that the case came with. We'll just have to flip the case back and forth, or if you can, walk around a table that's narrow so you can get back behind the case. But this one I just plugged in. This one is going to be for, I believe, the power button. So this one's going to be the fat one with kind of like the blue colored label on it. This one is going to go into this area. Again, refer to your manual because the connectors might be in different places. But for mine, for the H510 case, the connector for the X570 motherboard is going to be right there next to the 24 pin. All right, so now we're hooking up the front panel HD audio cable. Right here it's labeled HD audio, and then on my manual it says right down there on the bottom left corner is where this cable plugs in. And I guess most of these pin connectors, they're gonna slide on, and only the SATA cables, like this 24 pin and this 8 pin, they're gonna click. So most of these pins, you're just gonna slide it in. Okay, so this part's pretty tricky to show from the back, but I'll just pull some of the cables. So my case came with this F panel with things labeled HDD LED power switch, and then plus minus P LED. I think it's like power LED. I don't know, but I'm going to try to match it up. It's going to be this little front panel section down here. So yeah, depending on your case and your motherboard, it will differentiate a little bit. So again, refer to your manual. So here's another shot of the F panel cabling that we're doing. Right now we're doing the power switch, and the power switch for my motherboard is going to be down here. When you refer to the manual, it's going to show the positive on the left side and the ground on the right. This one doesn't have a plus or minus like the other cables, so a good indicator is that little arrow you see on the left side of this, meaning that is going to be the positive. So I'm going to just hook it up like so. All right, and that's the end of my front panel connectors. So this case actually comes with two fans, one on the back and one on the top. And the cable for those two, I just routed them to channel fan 3 and 2, which are on the bottom. It's going to be this one and that one right there. All right, next what we're going to work on is a liquid cooler. What I did was I removed the fan bracket from my case. It was sitting like this. And then I unscrewed these and took it out of the case, and now I'm going to lay it flat. Next, I'm going to take the two fans that it came with, like so. Just to note, this is going to be the side that is going to be pulling in, I think. And then we have the radiator, which we're going to have to hook up right now to the fan and the bracket. Another note is that this pump on the back side, where you usually apply thermal paste to your processor, already comes with thermal paste. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. If you want to use your own thermal paste, you can clean this off and then reapply your own thermal paste. But I'm just going to stick with that. We'll check temps once we run the computer. I also cheated and I got some of the foam packaging that something came in, and I'm using that to kind of hold it up. All right, and once you got that, just check and make sure there's no rattle in the fan or the radiator. All right, and once you're finished, you're ready to put this back into your case. Okay, now that we have our fan bracket attached to all the fans and the radiator, what we're going to do is we're going to place this back into the case like so. If you're interested in my orientation of my hoses facing down on the radiator, I'll leave you a link on Gamer Nexus's breakdown on why you should keep the hoses down and your pump on the bottom. So I'll leave a link for the description on that. Once you got it back into place, go ahead and screw these two screws back in. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to mount the cooler on here. It does come with the Intel bracket. I do have a Ryzen 7. I don't know if you could see, there's a reflection. But you're going to go ahead and just grab your Intel bracket, and it just goes on, and then you half turn it to lock it into place. And before I screw it in completely, I'm just going to make sure my cable can be patched in and routed properly. So what we have is this one USB cable, goes in here. And the other cable is going to be in this one. Connected. And go ahead and take the rest of the 4 screws to tighten this down. Remember, for the liquid cooler, this is going to keep your CPU cool. So you don't want to kill it, but I was told, you know, it's a machine, don't be afraid to tighten it down. It is the thing that's making contact to all of your CPU to cool it, so that's what its job is. Alright, and now our AIO is done, we just gotta cable it. So now we have all the cables plugged into our cooler. We're gonna try to cable some of it to our motherboard, including the fans. So this one's gonna be the USB, which is down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and route this up top like so. And we'll run it back up and plug it into one of our USBs. This is gonna plug into a SATA plug-in from my power supply, so I'm just going to run this in the back as well. This one's going to be for a fan splitter, so I'm going to run this in back because our fans are back there. And then this one, unfortunately, it's going to have to plug into my AIO pump, so it's just going to go in the front, and I'll try to kind of hide it as best as I can underneath the tubes. And then plug it in right here. Great, so there's our pump installed and cabled. Now I'm just going to use the fan splitter to hook up the rest of the fans. And here's the dreaded back of the case. Here's that fan splitter I just ran. And here's one of the fans from the radiator. And here's the other one. So, hooked it up into one. And hook the other one. Okay, so now I'm going to start a little bit of cable management before I go ahead and place my power supply.
Two days later.
Again, this is my first build, so don't critique me on my cable management. I'm doing my best. Alright, so now we finally have a graphics card. I'm going to go ahead and unbox this. Again, if you guys are wondering why I didn't build it with a 3070 in 2020, it's because the 1080 Ti is so powerful, and it's powerful enough for the things I need it for. So depending on what you need it for, look at different graphics cards. But for what I'm looking for, the 3070 is only like 35% better, so I ended up getting this one for pretty cheap. So this is kind of the main reason why my build is under 1500. And there it is. Check it out. Alright, now let's stick in this bad boy in there. Alright, now that we got our graphics card unboxed and ready to go, I kind of eyeballed it. And I'm going to actually have to take off these brackets right here, if you could see them. So we're going to take those off first before we install our graphics card. And in order to do so, we're going to first take off this one facing back towards us first, and then we'll take out these two slots. So just go ahead and unscrew this. Go ahead and unscrew this one. We got one. And so far I've kept all my spare parts, but I've heard people say like, okay, if you could probably just get rid of these or throw them out, but whatever, we'll hang on to them just in case. Alright, so in order to get the graphics card in, I did have to remove my radiator. I didn't want to take my pump off because it would create some thermal paste issues that I didn't really want to have to deal with, nor did I have the thermal paste available. Alright, and we heard a click. So we're going to screw, I guess, one of these screws back in. This other one doesn't really have a screw for it. Alright, nice and snug. So this is going to use, I guess, two 8 pins. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my two Asiahorse power supply cables. We're going to go ahead and break those. Okay, now that we got all our extension cables set, we'll go ahead and take our power supply, fan down. We're going to hook up all our cables that go to the power supply. Since these are extension cables, they advise not plugging it in like that directly. So let's check it out. So this is going to be for a 24 pin right there. Alright, so for the graphics card, we're using the PCIe. I think my least favorite part is plugging in these extensions or these power supply cables to the connectors. Okay, so we got all of that. Alright, lastly, I think I just need a SATA cable for power for my fan. And there we go, power for SATA peripherals is in, and that's going to be for that last cable. That is for my fan. Alright, that's it. Now we just got to deal with all this cable management, which I don't know if you want to see, so I'll just cut it to after I've been done. Alright, so we just did all the cable management. It's looking pretty clean. I literally got away with using 2 zip ties, and they're like right next to each other. These are the only 2. The rest I used cable ties. I'm not too concerned about it. It's going to be like a safety issue, whatever, I'll change it out, but it's built, it's done. We're closing the back, or we're going to see if it closes. That's, I guess, the first step. It fit. Success! Just one more for good luck. Good measure. One more for good luck. Good measure. Okay. Alright, so we're going to spin this around and we'll throw it on the glass case. Oh, I almost forgot. Our final touch right here. I'm going to open this guy up. And this build wouldn't be what it is if we didn't have a pop figure. And what better pop figure than Kylo Ren. Okay, we'll put him right here. Maybe not too close to the fan. Alright, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. This is my how to build a quality streaming gaming computer under $1,500. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a thumbs up. Leave a comment on if you guys want to see me play any type of games and see how this computer handles it. And please subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I just want to make content like this that everyone enjoys and is helpful. And we'll see you on the next one.